Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So this is the 11th episode of Notes on Self-Development. And inshallah, today we're going to read about making promises, inshallah. So this is so I said in this one, I said, most people have no problem making promises to people, even though they have no intention on keeping those promises. Strong character is built when we start to keep our promises. Keeping our promises requires commitment and selflessness. A lot of the times we have to give up our comfort to fulfill a promise to a person. A selfish person will never be able to do this. A selfish person will only keep a promise when it is in their best interest to keep that promise. That is the mindset of a loser. If you cannot keep a promise to the people around you, keep your mouth shut. If you cannot keep a promise to yourself, you will never be able to keep a promise to somebody else. So this is a lot of these that you'll see. Obviously you won't see them, but I know them. All right, there's a lot of these points are things that it's a conversation that I am having with myself, because it's just as much as I need this advice and this information just as much as anybody else, and that's the beauty of taking, for one, recognizing our faults. And then, trying to fix our faults, and then also explaining and teaching, because it helps you to become more cognizant of what's going on with you, because that's the most important thing. If we're not focused, if we don't know what's wrong with us, then how can we sit here and run around and know what's wrong with the world? We're always going to be looking at the world with a filter that's just completely clogged up and dirty, and then we're always going to basically have the wrong impression most of the times on what's actually happening in the world and what's happening with other people. And we're going to misjudge a lot of people because we're not even good at judging ourselves. So the first and foremost, we need to focus on ourselves. And that's the whole purpose of this book in the first place, is self-assessment. You might call it self-development, but to develop, you first have to assess yourself, and you have to realize everything that's wrong with yourself. And then you have to make a list of those things, and then you start working on those things day by day, trying to okay, this is wrong with me. Let me focus on this for like 90 days. All right, now the next thing, this is wrong with me. Let me focus on this until you get yourself to a point where it's like you're never going to be become perfect, not even in your own eyes. But at least you can get to the point where you minimize your faults. You get your faults down to a bare minimum, to where like you're focusing now, you start to see one thing here and one thing there, instead, like right now, if we were to sit back, and probably a lot of us, if we were to list down all the faults that we see with ourselves, all the things, we probably have a whole page, a whole list of things that we need to check off. So the point is to start to correct those things little by little to the point where we get to where now it's just like a list of 2 or 3 things. But so this is another issue. Is a big issue amongst people, is making promises. So I said most people have no problem making promises to people, even though they have no intention on keeping those promises. And that's because the people nowadays, they have no, I don't know what the word for it is in English, but in Arabic it's like al-wafat. They're not wafi. They're not, they're not, I don't know if you say trustworthy, or they're not responsible. There's a lot of these characteristics that go into this meaning of al-wafi. Al-wafi is just a person, yafi, bima ya'id, So if he makes a promise, he keeps it. If he takes an oath, he keeps it. He doesn't break his oath. He doesn't break his promises. He keeps everything. His word is his word. He doesn't go back on it, and he'll do everything that he can to make sure that he fulfills whatever it is that he promised. And that's, like I said, this is what probably, like for me personally, this is a huge issue, and I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in this. So I said, strong character is built when we start to keep our promises, and that's why we need to focus on, it's like when you realize something's wrong, the first thing that you want to do is just stop doing it. If your problem, like a lot of us, we have a hard time telling people no. I can't do this. And then you start putting more burdens on yourself by constantly telling people, yes. You need to understand, first off, what's in your means of doing, because you don't want to make a promise to somebody that you feel that you cannot keep. And if you're not keeping any promises, because some people, they're just overburdened. Other people, they're selfish. Other people, they're just lazy. Me personally, I fall in the lazy category. Times when I'm active, I have no problem going out and helping people, but it's just like, when I'm in lazy mode, forget it. You forget it. I don't want to do nothing. So, grab a book and lay back and read. That's it. But Allah Mustaan. But that's the reality. So we need to stop. Just stop it. Just like put a halt on promises for a minute. And then start, if your problem is that you just don't keep promises, then what you want to start to do to change is to start making smaller things, making smaller promises and fulfilling, just like goals. If you're trying to set goals right now for yourself, you're not going to start off with a huge goal of like, I'm going to memorize Sahih Bukhari, and you haven't finished memorizing the Quran. Even setting a goal right now to memorize the Quran that's a lofty goal. If you haven't memorized anything from the Quran, like maybe you haven't memorized a juz, and then you're going to say, I'm going to go and I'm going to memorize the whole Quran. Nah, don't focus on the whole Quran right now. Like try to memorize 1/6 of the Quran or 1/5 of the Quran. And then after, like 1/5 of the Quran, which is 6 juz, right? So that's 1/5. I mean, like, focus on something like that, and then go like, just keep completing a fifth and another fifth and then another. And once you get like maybe 3/5 of the way through, then you can say, okay, now my goal is to finish the Quran. So you have to start off with things. I mean, and for some people, setting a goal of 6 juz from the Quran is a little bit, that might be too big for them. So for them, it might be like, I'm just going to memorize juz amma. All right, now I'm going to memorize the last 3 juz. Now I'm going to memorize the last 5 juz and just keep adding on to it. So the same thing with promises. You can't just start like, okay, I'm going to fix myself and I'm going to start making promises and I'm going to keep them. And and start making these promises to people that like, again, and you're just putting yourself into another problem. You're jumping out of one problem and going into another problem. So you want to start off with small things. Small things like, okay, you only take on the responsibility of smaller things that you can complete, and it starts to give you that confidence to start going on and taking on bigger tasks. And then it becomes it's never going to become easy, but it'll become easier, because anything of greatness will never be easy. It's never going to be easy, but it will become easier, and it'll become where you actually enjoy doing it more. And if you enjoy doing it, doesn't matter how difficult something is. If you enjoy doing it, you're going to do it, inshallah. And so a lot of the times we have to give up our comfort to fulfill a promise actually, strong character is built when we start to keep our promises. Keeping our promises requires commitment and selflessness, because we have to commit to that promise. But we also have to be selfless, because by fulfilling a promise to another person, we're giving up what we want to be doing at the time or what we might be doing at the time. And we have to stop that and go and focus on, okay, well, this is what I promised to this person. That takes selflessness. And that's why I said some of the people who don't keep promises, generally, it could be from selfishness. It could be from laziness. There's a lot of different reasons, but each person finds, that's where the whole self-assessment thing comes in. You have to figure out why you're not keeping promises. What's the problem with you? And then you start focusing on that thing, that issue, and then you try to fix it, inshallah. So the selfless person will never be able to do this. A selfish person will never be, a selfish person can't keep promises, because his own self and his own survival and his own comfort comes first, not other people. A selfish person will only keep a promise when it is in their best interest to keep that promise. And that's the truth, because the selfish person, he's looking out for himself. So if there's a benefit in keeping the promise, and like maybe there's a financial reward, or he thinks that maybe like something, whatever, he's going to get something from it. He's going to benefit something from it. Then he'll go and do it. But if there's no financial reward, there's no other reward. There's just, just keeping a promise that you kept to somebody with no reward whatsoever, then a selfish person will not be able to follow through on that, no doubt. A selfish person will only keep a promise when it is in their best interest to keep the promise. This is the mindset. That is the mindset of a loser. And that's the reality, because we don't, we're put on this earth first off, we're insan. And insan, it comes from the word, and it does not come from the word nisyan, like a lot of these jokers say that the word insan or nas, it comes from the word nisyan. No, it does not. It comes from the word anisa, ya'nisu. And anisa, al-uns, it means that, ya'nisuna ba'dahum ba'dan. And, so al-uns is that we support each other, we help each other, and we have love for each other. And because this is the only way that we can ever achieve anything. Can't achieve something by yourself. You can't. If you think that you can achieve something on your own, go try. You'll achieve like some minor little, maybe some minor, milestones that you might have set for yourself. I mean, you can memorize the Quran alone. You can memorize the books of Hadith alone. But is that you can't spread the dawah alone. You can't spread the dawah to every single country on the face of this earth alone. So there's a lot of things that you can't do. And you see that every single prophet that went before us, there was ashab, that they had companions, and they had hawariyun, and they had supporters, people that took their sunnah and taught it, took it to the people and taught it. Because again, this is our nature. We're insan. So we have to have, and when we go away from this nature, as we see what's happening nowadays in Western culture, where everybody's on social media, so we're starting to go away from this culture. Our culture is that we help each other. If a person has a problem, like for example, if he's moving, we go and we help him move. Why should we leave our brother to pay some extravagant amount of money, to have other people move his house? We got all the brothers, all these able-bodied brothers that can help him move, and he doesn't have to spend that money. If somebody's having a problem, like something needs to be fixed in his house, and we got brothers in the community that know carpentry and know how to, or electrical wiring, and know how to do these things, plumbing or whatever the case may be. Why should this brother go and spend this money with the kuffar? So again, this is like Allah Mustaan. This goes back to us. We have to revert back and get back to our nature of helping each other, because there's nothing that we can do. There's nothing great that we'll ever be able to do alone. We're always gonna need people. You don't rely on the people. Now, when we put our trust is in Allah, but we have to understand that this is the nature. This is it. You're not gonna go to war, against all these ideologies on your own and think that you're gonna succeed. You have to have people around you. You have to have supporters. That's how it goes. But the people should be supporting the truth, not just supporting you as a person. So again, this all goes back into the selflessness. You're doing it because you're giving up yourself for the truth. And the people also, and you're encouraging the people to do the same. So everybody's working to establish the truth. So now we're working for our true creation, which is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا خَلَقَتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I have not created the jinn and mankind for any other purpose except to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So now you're fulfilling that purpose, and you're fulfilling your nature. You're fulfilling your purpose, and you're fulfilling it through the nature of what? Al-insan. So that's very important. And this requires selflessness, not selfishness. Selfishness is the nature of Iblis, is the nature of the shayateen, is the nature of the munafiqeen, is the nature of everybody that's gone against the truth. Allah musta'an. So that's why I said that is the mindset of a loser. If you cannot keep a promise to the people around you, keep your mouth shut. If you can't keep a promise, don't make one. It's just simple. It's better to tell a person, no, I can't do that. It's better than to sit there and say yes and get the people's hopes up and then let them down. If you can't keep a promise, just don't make it. It's very simple. If you cannot keep a promise to yourself, you will never be able to keep a promise to somebody else. So the first thing that you need to start on is yourself. Make a promise to yourself, like say things that you're going to do. I'm going to start, getting up before Fajr 30 or 40 minutes, and I'm going to read this amount of Quran, or I'm going to pray this much every single night. And after Fajr, I'm going to read this much of Quran. I'm going to memorize this many hadith every single month. I'm going to memorize this amount of Quran before Ramadan. And this is make these promises to yourself and keep them. Because if you can't even keep the promises to yourself, how are you going to keep them to other people? You're yourself. You're like sitting here making a promise for your own development, and you're letting yourself down in your own development. So how are you going to be selfless to the point of making promises to other people in their development and to assist them and help them in their needs, and you can't even do it for yourself? So the first thing is we need to start doing, start small and start focusing on things that we need to do for ourselves. And we have to make sure that those promises get carried out and fulfilled no matter what. Like the only thing that stops us is death, or some major event that just keeps us from being able to do it, so it's very simple. So if you sit there and say like, okay, I'm going to write so many hadith every single month into a notebook and memorize them, and something happens and you lose your hands, obviously you can't be writing no more, can you? But you can still memorize, you can still do other things, but you have to modify. Hopefully that never happens to any of us, but it's like along with time, things can happen. But that doesn't mean that the promise stops. That means it maybe has to be modified and adjusted. But you do what you have to do to make sure that you carry it out to the best of your capabilities. And Allah knows best way.